Hello everybody. I am here today to do what could be the most important video I've ever done. And that is how I use the Dina Wakley acrylic sprays, which are hands down my favorite art supply ever. So I'm going to remove my pristine white curtain here. So the first thing you should know is that these spray out. The spray is heavier. It has more compounds in the actual spray as opposed to like a dye, which kind of just goes straight down. These kind of float in the atmosphere a little bit more. So make sure that your space is protected. If you have any issues, you can use hand sanitizer to clean it off of glass or your surfaces or whatever. This helps get everything kind of cleaned up. So the reason why these are my favorite sprays, and by the way, I would like to say Ranger did not ask me to do this video. I'm just doing it because I've used these for so many years, like from when they first came out. I love them. And people have asked me all the time, can you do a video on this? Because I do use them a lot in my artwork. So I put a pristine Ranger craft mat down because my children cut up my other ones. So my other ones are well loved, but they just have slices in them. So I didn't want to subject you to like a really sketchy looking one. So I'm just going to use some Ranger tags just so I can do some samples for you. And the most important thing that people struggle with is that sometimes the nozzles can clog. But in recent years, I have found a way that 95% of the time prevents that. And it's a really, really, really easy thing to do. I just have a jar, a perpetual jar of paint water. It can be clean, it can be dirty, it doesn't matter. But after I've used my spray, I dip it in the jar with paint water and I'll actually kind of collect, like I'm doing a pond sample. I collect 2 or 3 droplets of water and I put it in the cap and I close it, because the reason why I think these might clog, this is my guess, is that it is a gloss spray. It is a fast drying spray. And so it dries so quickly that sometimes if there isn't enough moisture in the cap, it dries completely and then the tips can clog. So another idea is Ranger has, I think now they've switched it to Dina Wakley. It's the same one. You could get Dilutions or Dina Wakley. They do have replacement sprayers and they're really inexpensive. I think this is like $2.99 or something. But you'll see I have old jars. You can see all this moisture in there. That for me prevents the tips from clogging. So you can see this is a well-loved spray. I haven't used it yet. So let's just test out my theory here. I haven't used it to try this out. See how well that just sprayed? It's old, it's used, I'm all done. So I immediately just put like 1 or 2 drops of water in my cap and then clip it back on. Then here's a brand new one. I'm gonna shake it. Oopsie, I didn't close it. So I have to get started. So I'm just gonna use that, again, making sure that I have like a ton of water in the cap, right? So I always like to have wet wipes while I'm working, or a paper towel, just so I can kind of immediately collect the paint, because the thing that I don't think people realize is that it looks so wet. So you would think it takes a long time to dry, but it doesn't. It takes a short time to dry, even when it's on your paper. So I'm just looking in my trash for a tissue or a paper towel. I'm just gonna dry it a little more. So that is how to get your sprays to kind of work for you. It looks like a little terrarium in there. I don't know if you can see how much moisture is in there, but I've been doing that for the last year, and I have to use these all the time because I can't resist them, and they're just amazing, right? This one is so wet, it's dripping everywhere, so I'm just gonna dry that. And again, as soon as I'm done, I'm just gonna rinse it off in the water, make sure there's like at least 1 or 2 drips in there. And then I leave it like that, and that'll stay for several months, because sometimes there are months where I don't use them. Now, let's just talk about the sprays themselves. They are spectacular. And if you're ever in a quandary about how to start something, start it with the sprays, because they do all the work and it's just magnificent. So I brought a lot of my favorite colors that I like to use. I forgot one, but that's okay. This is marine. So my favorite colors to use, I got to grab the other one actually. Hold on 1 second. My favorite ones to use are like fuchsia and turquoise, because it's a perfect combination of like a soft blue and a bright, so it's like hot and cold mixing, and it just comes out beautiful. As it dries, sometimes I'll play with what's collected on the sides and tap it around so it doesn't just sit in one place. And again, it just adds to the way that they resist, and they create such beautiful patterns just on their own. You don't need anything else. I haven't gessoed these tags. They haven't been gessoed or anything. So now I'm gonna open a mineral, which is another one of my faves. Sometimes I'll coat like the more dominant color, like I want more mineral in this, and then I'll add just a little bit of cheddar. As you can see, like I've got old paint and this is pretty new. Both are working equally as well. Why? Because I'm dipping it every time and then keeping some water in those caps, like 1 or 2 drops of water, and you close it in and you can see it in there. Over time, it'll slowly evaporate, but the moisture, it creates enough moisture to last for several months. So I'm telling you, it works like a charm. And they really can be used. Dina, of course, Dina Wakley, whose products these are, she has so many great videos on how to use these in other ways other than a spray. So they're super versatile, but I just love the spray parts because of what they do when you spray them. They create these incredible patterns that, I mean, they're just so beautiful. Here is another older spray, and I'm just gonna put some of that on there. I'm constantly, it's like a routine, and then I constantly add the water, so I know. And you want to, in order to get these effects, you need to completely saturate the surface first. Once the surface is saturated and there's paint on there, that's where the resists start happening, when the paints are able to kind of interact with each other. So it doesn't start out resisting immediately. Sometimes you just have to wait for it to start to dry, because as it dries, the resist starts to happen. You can see it happening here a little bit as it goes. So just trying to keep this dry while I work. So you can see it happening. And sometimes what I'll do, if I feel like I need more, once it dries, I'll add another layer on top. You know, like it could be fun to open this up and just add a couple of drops on here of another color to create some contrast, especially a cool like this, because as it flows out, it's going to become like purplish hues. So I'm gonna let that dry. But already you can see just, I mean, look how beautiful those look. It's just spectacular. And I'm just cleaning as I go because, again, they are extremely fast drying. Don't let the spray nature and the glossy nature deceive you. That, I think, is why if you don't keep moisture in the caps, that is why they might cause clogging. So just the moisture is key, I think, because of the fast drying agents. Another one I wanted to try is a newer color. Probably one of the newest ones that she has, I think. I'm losing track at this point, is Rouge. It's definitely a newer color for the line. And so again, a nice contrast with Rouge would be turquoise. See, and so you can see where it's really wet. If I spray the turquoise, that's where you're getting the like super, super cool spreading out of colors, and the, I like to call it the galactic features. So it'll start getting galactic. And how fun does that sound? Let's get galactic with the spray. And then once these dry, these will make the most beautiful backgrounds of ever. I should have had some finished ones. Let me just show you one of my favorite. I think it's in this journal. Hold on. This is actually my Dilutions, like kind of exclusive Dilutions projects in here. However, look at this page. This is a page I did maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. These backgrounds entirely Dina Wakley acrylic sprays, entirely. So this is turquoise and rouge. This is some cheddar mixing. I mean, is that not the most beautiful color variation you've ever seen? All created just with the acrylic sprays. Like, how magnificent is that? And again, I didn't have to do much, and then it allowed me time to doodle on there. Once it dried, it's a beautiful way to create a starting place. So like this one is drying, but I want it to be a little bolder. So I'm going to go back in and just add some more color to it, because this is where, once it starts like drying the first layer, if you feel like you want a second, this is where you're going to really start to get some of the cool variations once it starts drying. Just so pretty. So I hope I inspired you to really try to use some sprays as beautiful backgrounds, and also gave you some tips for keeping your sprays so that they don't clog. It's just so worth it, because I mean, they really do the most spectacular things. You could create a whole slew of just beautiful collage papers with your sprays. They're just so fun to use. So I just wanted to do this video. A lot of people have been asking, and I thought it would be super, super good timing since no one's home and it's quiet. So anyway, I hope I inspired you today to try some of these techniques out. And I'll be back for more tips in future videos.